study after study has shown, though, that hunters really do a darn good job of displacing elk. Lead gets them moving, and we've seen that quite a bit. And so, but there is some localized impact there, definitely, from wolves. And I think, wasn't it a Yellowstone study? There was one Yellowstone study that showed the elk, actually in the Madison Valley, the elk moving down onto the private land, onto their winter range, and the wolves ended up following. Well, once they followed, the elk didn't leave because the wolves were there. They actually stayed there because even though the wolves were there, they were actually moving. There was additional hunting pressure, a lot of hunting pressure going on outside of that area. However, there was another herd that definitely hauled some butt, possibly associated with predators on the landscape. So there's a real variability there as to how it affects them. At least that's what I've read.
Was that a greenie that gave that report?
Pardon me?
Well, we've noticed over the last number of years, the elk and deer will come out into the fields and graze, but also they'll stay right there and lay down.
Yeah.
Rather than go back in the woods where, you know, there's a problem.
Yeah.
I own the ranch above the Shear Interchange there, and I've noticed, well, every year, you guys, or they claim whitetail don't migrate, but they do. You know, they come out of the 9 mile, they come over on the south side, you know, after it snows, and they're, you know, between Albert and the Tarkill, you know, that's where the whitetail winter. And then like in my field, I'll have probably 80 whitetail or 100 whitetail in my field until the 1st of April, and you can pretty near set your clock by it. I won't see another whitetail until the 1st heavy snow.
Yeah.
You know, they just disappear. But the elk, you know, that Tarkill herd, they come right over the hill, and 2 years ago, they completely wiped out my 3rd cutting of hay. I mean, I had about 80 or 90 head in there every night, and so this last year, they come in there and they took my shotgun out there and they laid down for a 4-mile fence, but after a couple nights of that, they disappeared. So, I mean, I got
Boy, you did good.
yeah. You know, I was able to get my hay.
Yeah.
Last year.
Oh, that's good.
All right, folks, let's move on to the next proposal. Let's skip that 9 mile, 6 mile area one. Let's go to Hunting District 201, increase existing LB licenses in the Mody Creek area from 30 to 50. What do folks think about us increasing those number of licenses in that sub-district?
I'd like to ask this gentleman a question that has the land we're just talking.
Uh-huh.
And are they down there on your property there when, you know, during the rifle season? Sir?
There's nothing in Nordic Creek.
No, the minute the bulls start bugling and stuff,
Yep.
they disappear. You'll never see another one. In the summertime, there'll be a bunch of 5 or 6 bulls come in June and July, stay for a day or 2, and then you won't see them again. But normally won't, but there won't be one anywhere around. After they start rutting,
Yeah,
they leave.
good to know.
What
Yes,
about the possibility of somehow enticing more archery hunters early in the season on that area to mitigate this possible rifle damage later on?
You know, it's a good question, and it's one, you know, we did away with antlerless opportunity on the general license for archery hunters in 201 as part of that big change in 2012 in hunting districts 200 through 203. Archery hunters can put in for those B licenses and draw one of those and hunt during that time period. So they do have that option, it's just not divvied up between the archery hunters and the rifle hunters. It's kind of an open pot for either one of them to put in for that tag. And it would be nice to get more archery hunters out there
Well,
to
yeah,
apply some pressure. And
Those arrows don't go as far as a bullet.
they don't. And what, you know, and they can be, of course, very effective. The most effective is actually having rifle hunters out there if we're actually looking for the harvest. Now, archery hunters can still get their harvest and displacement, it's just a heck of a lot tougher for them to get it. But I would like to see that pressure more drawn out across the seasons. That way, hopefully, it's moving the elk off and we're not having game damage issues, and plus increasing hunter harvest.
I know at the meeting the other night, the consensus of everybody was not to increase it, but to better manage the hunt. You know, if you have to start August 15th, have 5 hunters a weekend to come out and have, instead of opening day of hunting season, have 100 people out there and bullets flying everywhere. They would rather see it more managed than to increase the permits, because if you're not having a managed hunt, you're not getting the success anyway, you know, so, I know my son lives in Idaho, and, they start August 15th on the farmers' ranches, and if you have a cow tag, you can go out and, you know, they have 5 hunters a weekend or whatever, and they have a really pretty good success rate. So,
They do that up on the 9 mile, 6 mile area too, you guys do. Cause I had a neighbor that went earlier than the regular.
We had a game damage hunt,
Yep.
and it's a little different than shoulder season. Game damage hunt, that landowner has to be eligible for assistance for us to be able to put on that hunt. And that hunt, actually, I can issue them a tag for that hunt. So it's one that, or they can use their general license, we give them a couple of options. So it's actually something separate. A shoulder season is actually extending your hunting season overall into the first part of August. And that's not something I manage. With a game damage hunt, FWP works with the landowners
Right.
to manage, whereas,
That's what Lori's saying.
I think
Work with the
it needs to
landowners
be more
out
of
there.
a managed,
Yeah,
you know, in those areas, more of a managed hunt than just a
free for all.
free-for-all.
yeah. And as I'd mentioned too, we're more than happy to help folks with game damage issues if they're eligible. Folks just have to be fine with us helping them out. Jim?
I have a question for the wolf lady.
That
No
was-
howling,
There you go.
please.
We'll call her
You're on the hot seat
Liz,
now.
also known as Liz Bradley.
Yes. The question is, years ago when we met and discussed wolves, you said that you had collared one wolf in about most all the packs in Mineral County. Well, I assume that's not the case now since the packs have multiplied. You probably have a fair number of idea of the number of wolves. And I wondered whether you, 2 parts of this. I wonder if you have like they have with the other game, if you have a target level of the number of wolves you want in Mineral County. Second part is, rifle hunting, trapping, is not reducing the number of wolves by any significant amount. Now, since you do have some targeted, you know where the hell the wolves are. I don't when I go out with my gun. When John Cheeseman lost some horses out here, you were able to get a helicopter out there for aerial gunning immediately. When somebody lost their llama in 9 Mile, you did the same thing. If we are over the target number of wolves, would the Fish and Game Department be willing to do aerial gunning to bring us back down into what you consider to be the reasonable amount of wolves?
Well, I did expect to kind of hear this question based on some of the comments I heard from the meeting a couple weeks ago too. And I think I understand the concern here. We have a lot of wolves in this region, and since, the last time I talked to you here, probably in this room, our number of packs have increased. And so right now, I'm currently counting 10 packs of wolves here in Mineral County. And we're in the middle of our winter surveys. We try to get as accurate numbers as we can so that we can tell if anything we're doing management-wise is having an effect. So yeah, so far, we've gotten 8 wolves harvested here. 4 by hunters and 4 by trappers, and that's just not gonna do it. It's a statewide question about management. We've been working on this, trying to figure out how to manage wolves, how to manage them effectively. Obviously, it's different here than it's gonna be down in Madison County or someplace else in the state. So we have to look at each place individually. The kind of decisions about whether we get a helicopter up, and do some kind of state-based control is going to happen at a different level, than right here. I'm trying to plug in the data so that those decisions can be made, and we need your comments on that. When we get into a wolf season setting proposal, there's going to be an opportunity for that. So far, we've been trying to set up a wolf season in a fair chase way. That's how we've done other species. That was our hope, that we could do it with fair chase hunting and trapping. To be honest, I'm not surprised that we're not having a lot of hunter success here. We have really thick timber that just makes it harder to see wolves. I am more surprised that we're not getting more trapping harvest. And I wanted to ask all of you in this room what you think about that, why we're not getting trapping harvest. And can we be doing anything differently there too? We've been adding tools every year, so we added more wolf tags this year. You can shoot or trap up to 5 wolves or some combination. You can use electronic calls. We're trying to kind of figure out what works. But taking it up to some kind of government control thing, it's a big difference from the way we've operated throughout the agency with trying to maintain, fair chase standards.
Are we gonna run out of elk before they decide to do something?
Yeah.
Because you look out there right now, everywhere we're going, and I don't see anybody else, we're not running any other people's tracks. We're tramping that whole 200 and 202 on the west end up there, and there's wolf track everywhere.
No, I know.
And
I
it's
think
one heavy winter, and your figures here are gonna be nil.
Well, to sum up what I said is, you know where they are, we don't. Are you willing to help the people of Mineral County?
They won't tell you.
I don't. My job right now with the collars. So yeah, that's how we monitor wolves. We put out radio collars. We put out as many as we can. With more packs, I'm enabled to get as many collars out as I can. I try to keep as many collars. There's a lot of turnover. Obviously now we've got hunters and trappers that are taking collared wolves, and so it's even becomes more of a challenge to keep the population collared. I can't make that decision.
Yeah, I'm going to answer for you. The answer is no. Thank you.
Would they continue to consider, they've changed the licensing and the season dates, is that something that you would figure that they would continue to look at year-round season bait? I mean, is it something that they're gonna continue to change? Or are they just said that this is, you're feeling that they're gonna leave it the way it is, or are they looking at alternative ways to control them?
Oh, I would never say that we're not open to change. I think that's part of having an adaptive process.
The year-round season would help, bait would help.
Does the Fish and Game think
Just like
that the elk are gonna come back with the amount of wolves we have in Mineral County right now? Is 200 and 202 ever gonna be back to where it's what I call normal? It's not ever gonna.
Nope.
We need an additional wolf harvest, and as you all know, there's a lot of compounding effects that occurred, especially over the last 5 years, with us not getting our line harvest on the permits. Those line numbers just skyrocketed. Yeah, you've seen that. This last year, we were able to institute that hybrid season, starting out with permits and then going to quota as of February. I'm hoping we get some better snow tracking conditions and running conditions here, so that when it does open on February 1st, we can be as successful as we were last year. We filled 88% of the quota within the Mineral County area and the western Missoula County area. So with that, those compounding effects of, had high numbers of bears, extended that season, more pressure, extending it again, lions, high numbers, trying to manage them at lower population levels. The wolves came in, higher densities, more distributed, and we haven't been able to get our harvest of wolves. Unfortunately, 21 last year were harvested. I believe 11 of those were in Mineral County, kind of localized around that 202, 203 area. And Fish Creek seen a decent harvest. But we do need more. 8, as Liz said, 8 is not enough.
If you look at what happened in Yellowstone, and bears and lions ain't even in the ballgame for what wolves can.
Well, and you know what's interesting, this is what's really cool about some of the research that's going on right now, is we actually have a Bitterroot elk project that's been going on for the last few years, looking at calf production and survivability, among other things. And what's really interesting about it is that the main predator thus far has been lions. Not to say wolves haven't taken some, not to say bears haven't taken some, but lions have really been whacking those calves when we look at the overall mortality. And we've got thousands of waypoints and hundreds of calves that have been tagged. Really a great study within the region that kind of can speak to, I think, some of the things we've got going on here, but still getting back to the fact that we do need to increase our wolf harvest. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
How much trapping you got in this area, Liz?
We've had 4 wolves removed by trappers this year so far.
So you have a number of trappers out there?
Well, I know some. I'd be curious to
I
know.
trap.
You guys probably have a better sense of how many.
I trap on the west end, Salteast Hoggin area,
Okay.
and I've been hitting it pretty hard. It's my first year, there's a learning curve there, there's no doubt. Unsuccessful to this point. Part of it is, I think, the weather. There's no snow, and the wolves move anywhere they want to move. In deeper snow, they'll get on more designated trails, and I think they kill more elk and deer that way, they're like that too. But right now, I think part of my being unsuccessful, I'll go out and see wolf tracks all the time, but I'll set my traps and then they aren't there. Obviously, they've got a big cycle, so I'm hoping they make that 3-week cycle and come back in on them, but I haven't been very successful. And I don't think, and I know I hunt a lot on the west end, and there's not a time that I don't go out and see a wolf track. I rarely see a cat track, and I see a bear occasionally. I know they're predators too, but the wolves are out there, and I don't think we're ever going to get a handle on them by shooting them or trapping them. I mean, I don't trap. I'm not a trapper, but I'm trapping now just to help, try to help. Unless we do something outside the box on the wolf in our area, you know, you get Madison County and some of those areas we have a little more open country. But in Mineral County, we're going to have to do something a little outside the box to control them. I know it's not going to be very well received sometimes, but aerial's the only way I think you're ever going to manage the wolves in this area. You're not going to trap them. You're going to get a few here and there, just by chance.
Is snaring legal?
But you're not.
Not
You're gonna,
now. Not
Well,
right now, no. I
what
think
about
we-
Tarkio and them places where you got a bunch of elk? Why aren't the wolves working them?
There's a couple
They
wolves.
are.
They're just
They
moving in
Not a
now.
big pack.
I think with the Fish and Game, they've got collars on these wolves, they know where they're at. Over in the Clearwater, over in the Cedars, the Fish and Game, my son hunts over there. For 2 summers, or 2 years, the Fish and Game went in and collared wolves. They knew right where the wolves were. The next year, they went in there, they know where the wolves are at, they started eliminating the wolves. Because they knew where they at, they had collars on them. You know where they're at, get a government trapper in here and say, okay, we need to eliminate some of these wolves. This is where they're at. Get a government trapper in here that knows what they're doing.
I think too.
How many packs you got collared here that you know?
We have, sorry, I need to think about it for a second here. 5, so about half of them.
I mean, Joe Public can go and wander around the woods for hours and days and never see one. You guys know where they're at.
Yep.
Let's get rid of them.
Yep. And then another thing, like the guy said, make it like coyotes, you shoot them any time of year.
Yeah,
What
shoot
the
'em
hell's the
on sight.
big deal? You're not gonna get rid of them, you know it and we know it, but you're not gonna get rid of the wolf anymore thanks to the feds. But by God, give us every opportunity to get rid of what we can.
Any way
If I'm
we
in the
can,
middle of summer and
bait
I'm
'em.
out driving around cutting firewood and I see a wolf, I would sure like to be able to shoot him
Tell
legally.
'em, Roman.
Oh, totally.
He had one in his field the other day, he didn't have a wolf tank, why, I don't know. You know,
Yeah, I mean, that's
exactly.
where I mean, I know you guys are getting, the other side of the argument, especially like from Missoula, that might sound like, you know, eliminate the wolf and we don't want them around and all we're kind of heathens and rednecks, but actually, if the wolf is here to stay and if it seems to be a problem, trapping, hunting, and I'm not a trapper or a hunter either, but it is a little bit concerning to me when they're getting this bold and coming right down to the houses to get dogs during the mating season. Now, I used to walk around, I'm wondering if I'll bump into one in the middle of the night. I know they may or may not have hurt people, but they're such big menacing animals. Why not just let it be? If the regular management scenario, fair chase, isn't working, why not try year-round season or treat it like a coyote? Because they are proving how difficult they are to harvest within a window of time with limited licenses and all that. So I would be for something like that, at least in Mineral County, especially if it's not really gonna greatly impact the population. Even if we were a free-for-all, I think probably the wolf would stay right about in balance anyway. I mean, I just worry about the increased problems with, you know, someone's llama, someone's Shetland pony, dogs. It's kind of hard to enjoy living out here when the big bad wolf really is getting to be. I mean, there's all kinds of sign around my house. Even the 9 Mile Ranger wanted to go hunting up there, and he went up there one day and he said, "I'm not coming back here, Roman." He said, "You guys got so many wolves around here. There's more tracks and there's less elk and I don't know." I just hope that these problems don't increase, like you said. By the time we finally come up with a real plan, then we really are on the skids with our economic driver in western Montana, which is hunting, which will soon start to affect you guys and your jobs, the game wardens. Or if we don't have any game to manage, then pretty soon the whole economy is going to crumble around what Montana built. So, like I said, I'm not a big hunter, but I can see where it's important to our to our residents and to our economy and to the balance. And I just worry about the balance.
As an outfitter, it's killed me with my hunters. But you know, I got a restaurant there in St. Regis, and the out-of-state people used to come in and hunt. You know, I'd have anywhere from 15 to 25 out-of-state hunters in there in the morning for breakfast. And this was through the season. Last year I had 3. That was the total. And it's gotta be affecting you guys too, as far as the out-of-state.
well, it's also a snowball effect. I mean, that's why we have an increase
killing
in
the
mountain
boom
lions too, is because you got these lion hunters out there with dogs. They're not turning their dogs out because they're getting killed by the wolves.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
now the mountain lion population is increasing. You know, I mean, we gotta do something. I mean, you know, when we got a mountain lion kill the deer right in my mother's driveway, my mother-in-law's driveway. We had a mountain lion kill a cow moose on our property this summer. I mean, you know, there was a cow with twin calves. Pretty soon saw the cow, no calves. There was a yearling cow moose, killed it. I mean, it's a snowball effect. I mean, the predators are,
Well, we've always been able to live with the bear and the lion. This other one.
well, yeah, but I mean, we're getting more
Yeah, this
lions
is
too.
true.
I mean, I saw more lion tracks this year than I have in a long time.
How many guys are hunting cats? I
Well, that's
mean,
it, you know,
you know, I
nobody wants
used
to
to know
turn their
half a
dogs
dozen people
out.
that had
Nobody
dogs.
wants
You
to
can't
turn
find
their-
nobody got dogs now once you come across cat trap on this way.
Oh, I know it, because they don't want it, I mean, they've got a lot of money invested in these dogs and they don't want to turn them out.
It was really enlightening. You had said at the last meeting a couple weeks ago about that 5-year federal control over this. How much influence do you think we all can have, including you in the situation? How much influence do we have in this licensing guidelines, the standards that are set, or how it's gonna come out? I mean, Is Montana have control to say that in this 3-county area or whatever region, can they have some kind of emergency declaration or control of that licensing agenda to change something soon?
Well, okay, so, thanks. What he's talking about is something that we haven't talked about yet today, but probably should. I mean, just so that we know what we're dealing with, and I'm tracking this conversation close, I have no argument with it. When the wolf was reintroduced and the wolf was naturally recolonized and also from the north, it was an endangered species. We met the recovery criteria. Montana met the recovery criteria in 2002 or 4.
2002.
In 2002. Montana's emphasis was, we're under federal control, and we need to get it under state control. So we played as aggressively by the rules as we could to try to get delisted and get it under our control, your control, so that we could manage the animal. And we did that swiftly because every year that the population increases, the harder it is to ever get on top of it. I mean, you know that because they're hard to get at. So we worked on that, and we got tangled up in court, and you all know that. And so we got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed until we got lots and lots and lots of animals, and it's harder to ever get on top of it. Senator Tester, and he's the one I remember, but there were no doubt others involved, got the delisting process started again in 2011.
2010 was the final.
The congressional action for delisting
Yeah,
was
2010.
2010. Well, sooner than we thought. So, in terms of the 5 year. So the wolf is not delisted. What that congressional legislation said was that the delisting process can now legally proceed. Delisting process is a 5-year process. And so from that point forward, then Montana has to monitor, Montana has to prove up on the, again, continually that the species is recovered, which is not hard to do, but that's a good part of what, well, I'm just saying that we're well over what it takes to recover the population. And there's a 5-year period of continued federal oversight. What occurs during that 5-year period is an establishment of a habit and a pattern of actions taken by Montana at all levels of government to indicate that Montana is willing to have the wolf on the landscape as a managed species. If we send signals, strong signals, like eliminate the wolf. Well, lots of people would like to eliminate the wolf and turn the clock back, but eliminate the wolf is not an option politically, and probably not biologically, but politically, because you've got two alternatives. You've got the wolf and you got it managed in some form or fashion, or it's federally endangered. Those are the two options, because it's going to go one way or the other. We can have them as long as we can do something that the federal government will accept, or if we can't accomplish that, then they will have them. So there's a 5-year period of oversight. You can expect that after that 5-year period is up, that everybody will be watching really close. So what we're trying to do now, heck, our wolf management, our harvest management only began in earnest in 2011. So we got a first season on the ground that was just hunting. Then we got a trapping season on the ground. Then we got an increased bag limit and electronic calls and things that in the legislature they thought would make a big difference, a helpful difference, not a big difference. So what we're trying to do, we think it's moving too slow, but I'll tell you what, the critical period when it moved too slow and we passed it was in the mid to late 2000s. That's when we had our chance, I believe, to slow the growth of the population to a point where maybe that was pie in the sky, but that we might be able to keep up with it, you know. And strike a particular balance that would keep elk numbers maybe sort of kind of where they were, you know. I'm afraid that we might not be able to get back on that one because we missed that threshold, so we talk about time. So what Montana's doing is trying to provide wolf management tools that under a fair chase situation. Somebody brought up baiting, somebody brought up year-long trapping or longer trapping, different tools. Maybe some or all of those tools are gonna prove to be what you need to have in order for somebody who wants to out and enjoy the outdoors and harvest a wolf. Maybe that's what they're gonna need in order to be able to pursue that. You know, so we're trying to learn to build those tools. We say it isn't working, well shoot, the season isn't even over yet, and so we know it's not working, but we're only months into that season with the new tools, you know. So the next opportunity for the department to look at its next wolf season comes up in May in front of the commission. And I would guess that under the scenario that we're in, I think that probably, I'm gonna predict to you, just so you have a sense of what you're up against and you can do what you want with it. But I think that we will probably see something somewhat similar to what we've got going on this year. And then in the year following with the legislative session in, there'll be some work back and forth to look at more tools for the following year, I would guess. I think, one last thing that I would say is that it's kind of like our B license discussion. We know what the real answer is, but we gotta live in the present. And so, living in the present, the best thing that we can think of doing is trying to manage what we can manage. We can manage lines. I mean, we're actually getting a good harvest. I know what you're saying is true about the guys not wanting to turn their hounds out, but somehow or the other, you're getting a good harvest when you got conditions where you can.
Right.
We're getting the harvest. We can manage lions. We can manage bears. We do what we can with wolves. If you manage the whole total, you might get some escapement drainage by drainage, you know. I mean, you might get a little relief in one of the cedar creeks. You might get a little relief where wolf numbers are generally high around. You might get some relief from year to year. Whitetails might come up where we get an even better hunting opportunity on whitetails again, you know. I mean, it will be a mix of good and bad, such that if you look all across Mineral County and you say, are we ever gonna have the elk numbers that we had before? I'm afraid we might not. But if you look drainage by drainage, it'll be good hunting in some years, I think. That's what we're thinking. I mean,
Well, doesn't the state or the feds, don't they have a certain, like for Montana, a maximum number of wolves and a minimum?
haven't got to that.
We haven't? I thought they had, he said they had 680 wolves or something like that in the state right now. I thought, what's the 10 breeding pair and the 150 wolves that we're talking?
Yeah, see, that's the minimum. That's the recovery criteria. So you're recovered when you get to at least that. But then there isn't any cap. And that is thick with politics. I agree with you. We need to have a management target. We need to have an idea of what we're shooting for. Right now, it's hard to establish that. As soon as you say a number, you've got a bullseye to fit every single political agenda on planet Earth. It's too low, it's too high, and you'll end up fighting that baby in court for the rest of your life. Might not even be managing wolves, you know? I mean, that's the can of worms you open up. So I mean, we don't mind talking about it, you just gotta
Well, I
know that
think
there isn't
even-
a ton we can do.
Even in the elk recovery, I think the state needs to step up and start, it's not just the wolves, it's the habitat.
Yes.
I think the state needs to start putting the federal government, you know, on the table and say, you know, we had a lot more elk when we had logging. There is not the habitat that there used to be. There's not the habitat. I mean, when they were logging, you know, I mean, you'd go up Cedar Creek and you could see lots of elk in the clear cuts, in the, you know, where they were logging. Now there's no habitat left.
They quit calling them clear cuts and called them grazing fields for a
Yeah,
while.
you know, I mean,
They did.
the habitat is not there. I mean, these forests are in such horrible shape that that's why they're down in Donley's field, or they're down in Wheeler's field. There's no habitat left up in the higher country. You know, I mean, they've gotta have something to
elk
eat.
need cover, and all, the big fire between the other side Alberton and Tarpio there, and all that country burnt, and then actually there's absolutely no cover left for them, and so they moved out of there completely.
You know, it's gotta be managed habitat. I mean, you know,
And I'm surprised there's nobody here with the Forest Service. We have a cedar tom timber sale up here, and who's holding that timber sale up right today?
it's a.
Fishing game.
It's the fisheries.
They are holding up another one over there, and I've done the layout for the Forest Service Thompson, and it's closed because of the fishing game has not done their ESI.
Yep.
So how is that helping us? Every solution I have heard today from the fishing game is the fix is a permit. You guys are trying to get money and all that stuff, I understand that, but everything is a permit. Everything is a permit to fix their problem. We need, I thought, the 50 cow tags down here. Why not live trap them and put them back up in the mountains? Well, that ain't gonna work.
No,
We're
there's
gonna
no
feed the elk,
habitat.
or the wolves. We don't have the habitat for the elk up there. So it's just not a little permit thing.
Oh, I know, I
So,
do know. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanna find out about the cedar tom thing.
Well, is there any way
Because
that,
I've heard about this twice now, and I don't know what the deal is.
It's the federal
trout.
fish wildlife service on the federal level, they don't have their,
Oh, it's on the
Biology.
federal level, they say.
okay, so why do we need the state fishing game then?
I don't like you talking like that.
But I mean, the Forest Service hands are tied just like the fishing game at the state level.
Yeah.
Like Lori said, we live here, not the people in Washington DC. We need to be able to manage what we have here. We don't get to vote on their stuff that they do in New York City or DC. So if we don't stand up and say something, it's not gonna happen.
Well, you're right. When I talk to you guys, any of us, I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. I'm just trying to give you information so you understand where we're at, what we can do and what we can't do. You do what you need to do. That's how this stuff works, and
Okay.
you let people know, you know, you let people know what your thoughts are. I know what you're thinking.
is it, I mean, but then are you saying that is truly all political? Like if everybody in this room wants to push the panic button and scream and yell, that is truly all just politics?
Sure.
Politics is certainly part of it.
Yep.
I mean, it always is. Politics always has been
Oh, I-
part of it. I mean, during elk management, the whole 9 yards. The good stuff is politics, the bad stuff is politics, it's people involved, you know? That's, I mean, okay, I just ate some apple pie, but it just is indeed a fact.
That's what my original comment back, a few minutes back was asking, is how much influence does Fish and Game in Montana have? And that was part of that whole comment.
Okay, you had an original question.
Yeah.
Well,
So Mike,
we have a lot of we have a lot of effect within a narrow window. I mean, that's what it is.
so even though you guys go to school and your science sometimes is ignored for the sake of a political view rather than your understanding of what's best for the landscape and the wildlife.
Yeah.
And if I heard you right, so the 5-year period should be over by 2015 where you might actually be able to implement more management styles and into this wolf problem, because that would be 5 years from the 2010 delisting period.
Can
Is
you
that-
confirm, or you gotta look it up to be sure?
No, that's right, that's 2015.
And then, like you said, then, when you come to that point, you have to be careful how aggressive your ideas are, because your ability to manage the wolf could be taken away from you and put placed back with the Fed.
Yeah, it's harder work for the other side, but still, yes.
Okay, I think maybe from at least my perspective, that I can put a hammer on these excuses. Back when before they delisted the grizzly bear, or listed the grizzly bear as an endangered species, the feds come in and said, you can't do anything with it. Montana continued to hunt them for, what, 5 years after something like that, after the declaration that they're endangered? Yeah. And it's because Montana had the right to manage its own fish and game. They told the feds, go take a hike. The same thing can happen with the wolf. Montana has the right to manage its own game species, if it will just simply say we're going to. And the other thing is, in reference to, well, you get all the federal agencies in here to start enforcing that. Well, we have a constitution that says you shall not bring armed bodies of men to enforce laws into the state of Montana without the governor's permission. The governor just has to kick them out, or they get arrested. There are some simple things in my mind that can happen just as quick as that happened. It got turned on, it can get turned off. And you just need to look at it from a different point of view so that you can manage it for the way that the science says that it can happen. We don't, we're missing the whole ball of wax here, that the state of Montana does have the authority and not the feds, if we simply exercise it. So now, with that little piece of tidbit, how are you gonna handle it?
Same way, unfortunately. Because, I mean, the thing that you're talking about with the grizzly bear, it went for a little while, but then that was shut down. And we can't manage grizzly bears anymore than we manage.
I bet you could.
Yeah, for a while, maybe. For a day or two. There's why, this is neither here nor there, but, everybody wants the science. I appreciate that, and that's what we studied. And it brought a bunch of it. I mean, just for grins, if you want to see what's going on in some places. And it's really important because it builds some common ground. You can say a wildlife population works like this, and learn different things about it. But I would ask you if you want scientists to make your decisions about what you want. I mean, in other words, there's most of the final decisions on things are social decisions, or what people want. Wolves are wildlife, do you want them or not? Well, the science says wolves are wildlife, and here's what they need to live on, and your wolves are doing just fine, so therefore, but it's a social decision when you say, wait a minute, no, I'd rather have the elk, I'd rather have deer, and so there's always gonna be a mix, and no matter what science you bring, somebody will say, no, I don't wanna see that science, I wanna see the science that I happen to agree with, and so we always run into that too. But in a room like this, where we got fair-minded people talking common sense, science can really help us make good decisions.
Well, I think these decisions should come from the people in the area that's affected a lot. Not from
What works
these
in
New
Eastern
York,
Montana doesn't work here.
Washington DC.
Now, see, that's what we're working on. But we only got half a
But it seems
load
like-
here.
Seems like it should come to a vote or something, I don't know what. I don't have the answer, I know that, but what's going on isn't the answer either, I don't think.
We're gonna beat this wolf to death. We'd all like to beat the wolves to death. But I wanna go past that. I have a question on bear if I can.
Yeah.
Many years ago, we used to hunt bear. We didn't have to keep the carcass, did we? Many years ago. And we all remember that. You didn't have a problem with bears killing the elk and the deer in the spring because the bears were kinda kept in check. And you changed it because the granolas got in there and said, oh, you gotta keep the bear meat, you gotta keep the bear meat, you know. Well, that's all fine then. I don't know if you've ate bear meat, but it ain't good.
I've had
You know,
some.
especially when you get a little trichinosis added to it, you know, and stuff, you know, that's. So why don't the Fish and Game go back to that? You don't have to keep the bear meat if you don't want to. You would get more people hunting bears.
Yep.
And you would get a better harvest of bears than you're getting right now. I know, you know, I buy bear tag every year, but God forbid if I'm gonna shoot one of them dirty bugs, what I'm gonna do with that bear meat. I'm not kidding you, I'm telling you the truth, you know. I got a friend in Kansas, he says, well, I'll take it. I'll say, well, you're gonna get it if I get one, let me tell you. But these people don't want that bear meat. And I don't know if any of you guys know that eat it. I know one person in this town, she thinks it's wonderful, but then we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you guys would go back to that, that's just one more thing you could do to keep that bears a little more in check. You know, if they want to keep, if you want to keep the bear meat, fine, but you don't have to. But you got all scared when and it was granolas got in there and they're going to sue you because you're wasting them. Well, you got a predator. You call them a predator as a bear. You call a wolf a predator and a mountain lion a predator. You don't have to eat those two. Now you're just saying what you want. You know, if you're going to do it, make them eat all three. And then how far are you going to get? There ain't going to be no wolves killed. There ain't going to be no lions killed. There ain't going to be no bears killed.
Lion meat's good.
It is good.
That's fine, but most people don't eat it.
Extra.
90% of people don't eat it. And now and you sure as hell ain't gonna eat a wolf,
No.
but it's the same thing as a bear. It's a predator, so what the hell's the difference? I guess that really frustrates me, because I love hunting wolves, or I mean bears. I think it's wonderful to go out there and try and find, I ain't shot one in many, many, many years, but I love going out and seeing them. But if I get one I want to shoot, I'm probably not going to shoot the damn thing, because I got to do some of that stupid meat. And I'm sorry to say that, but the one I did get and I sent in had trichinosis in it, so that was the end of that meat, you know.
Yeah, it's one you have to cook it well done,
Yeah.
or you have to sausage it out,
Yeah.
thorns or something along those lines. And
Yeah.
we do, like you were saying, I'm glad you took advantage of that kit and sent that off to the
Yeah.
lab, because we do provide that service to folks, because we do have trichinosis
Mhm.
in the state of Montana. And that was one suggestion that also came up at the Superior meeting on the 8th. If we want to see an increase in bear harvest, what sort of opportunities are out there? And
Yeah.
someone did mention actually being able, not having to take the carcass. And it's one that I let folks know, you know, when we look at our harvest and the proposal that you guys see in front of you now to extend that bear season from May 31st to June 15th, as I mentioned, what I found when we extended the spring season from May 15th to May 31st, we actually did bump up our harvest quite a bit. We're just trying to bump it up even more by extending that season and seeing if there's an opportunity to manage that population at a lower level. But there's still the comments on, you know, the regulations associated with keeping meat, and those are things we're definitely keeping track on, and
Yeah,
if there's an opportunity for that in the future.
Many years ago, my oldest son shot his first bear, and it was comical. He got it, he went out there, he'd come home, he was just excited, and I told him, I want to take it on, and I showed him how to gut it. I was in a school board meeting, and he gutted it all out, him and his buddy, and they were all happy. He said, Dad, it had a worm in it that big. I said, I'm going to eat that thing, you know.
Scavengers carry
Yeah.
those parasites.
Yeah.
Open the season the 1st September.
You know, we
We used to have
Okay.
that all the time, and you'd be in the huckleberries, you know.
Yeah.
when the
Yep.
bears are out in the open.
And something new that they started back in 2012 was actually adding the archery season on to the bear season.
Right,
So
you used
we
to have
have
2
it-
weeks.
Yep, so we do have it opening, the archery season at the or the bear season at the beginning of archery season, for archery hunters.
No, I'm talking about rifle.
Rifle hunters starting in the first part of September.
September.
Sure, why not?
So, Vicki, I know you guys are probably getting ready to eat, getting ready to close here, but real quick, regarding your 10 calves per 100 cows, what would you like to see? What do you, in your words, to grow elk? What is the ideal ratio?
That's a really good question. And when we look at it, those calf-cow ratios, I'd like to see in the high 20s at least, for us to consider having some sort of antlerless opportunity, and then you have to monitor it pretty closely. I'd prefer in these areas where we want to see increasing populations, I definitely prefer to see in the low 30s. But like I mentioned, with that 10 calves per 100 cows, that was all across the hunting district, for hunting district 203 in 2012. In 2013, we did see a bump up in that ratio, but unfortunately it was just on that east side of 203 where we saw more calves on the ground. And so that's why I think we may see a little bump up in that population on the east side. We definitely need some help in the Fish Creek area, and I definitely prefer high 20s and low 30s to really get a population growing.
And then I don't know if we actually ever addressed your Tarkio question, because it happened beating the wolf here, but did you, I don't know if there's any issues out there safety-wise, or why you want to bump it from 30 to 50, or do the landowners that complain about it currently, do they allow welcome hunters on there? I don't know some of those problems out there, but in light of the wolf thing, what happens if you just leave it at 30? Because it might get taken care of next year. You know, I don't know the issues out there, so I don't know if that question ever got answered, or what some of the details are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up again. And with that proposal in the Modi Creek area, increased licenses from 30 to 50 was in hopes of course, increasing harvest and incrementally increasing it by not providing and flooding in the area with a ton of folks. However, some of the feedback that we got at the Superior meeting was definitely a human safety concern. And also, what sort of access do we have on some of those private lands? Some of the private landowners do allow hunter opportunity. Others do not. They may just let friends and family hunt on the property, and it's fairly limited. So it's pretty diverse. What we really need to see, you know, and we could keep those tags at 30, is if we had a concerted effort by landowners to work together on getting hunters out there and incrementally getting them out, kind of teaming up and working together. I think we could be very effective with 30 tags. We did not have that sort of coordination over the last 2 years, though. It's not to say the opportunity is not there and that maybe we can bring folks to the table to have those discussions. And I know Justin's been talking with folks out there and, you know, trying to get them to work together on addressing the problem collectively. And so that folks can actually be out there and hunt out there safely without having some of these shootout issues that we ended up seeing this hunting season. We didn't so much see it the first year, did we? But this second year, we definitely saw it.
Yeah, and I think it's just gonna take the landowners
Yeah.
coming together in a unified fashion and, you know, try to manage the hunters that are on their property at certain times. So that way you don't have this influx of 30 B licenses out there at one time looking at just one little piece of land. Because as soon as you shoot one bullet at them, they cross over the other land. Well, it'd be nice to have, okay, well, we got 5 hunters out there this morning.
Yeah.
And they're shooting there, and if they go over to the other piece of land, then they can go over there and shoot it over there.
Yep.
You know, and have all the landowners working together. I mean, they don't have to be in block management if they don't want to, but as long as there's access in a uniform fashion,
Yep.
it's gonna be easier and safer for people to hunt out there. It really is.
Doesn't Denley manage his like that, only allows so many hunters on there?
Denley's in the block management program, yeah. And you know, the block management program works out great. It really does. But if you don't want to be in it, you don't have to be to get access on your land. And we recognize that, you know, but the way it is now, you know, if 15 hunters have permission on one piece of land and another landowner just adjacent doesn't have any, you're going to have some issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because you're gonna have some huge shootouts and some safety issues going on, so.
So what's the success ratio for 30 elk? How many do they get?
Based upon the telephone hunter harvest survey data, there were only 2 elk that were harvested out of those 30 tags. Now, talking with one of the folks that lives out there, he was kind of keeping tabs because he was really curious about the comparison of our telephone hunter harvest survey data with what he was seeing on the ground after talking with folks and seeing the elk harvest. And that, in 2012, he counted it was 8 or 9 elk that were harvested during that time period.
So if you went up to 50, it would be 10 or 12.
Right, unless, well, yeah, hopefully get
And so
closer to
there's
10 or 12.
100, 200 elk out there?
Yeah, around about 175, 185. We've been stable for the last 2 years at that high level. We did see an increase from 2010 to 2012, and then for 2012 and 2013, we've stabilized. And part of that could be due to maybe additional hunting pressure. Maybe we've got some predator influence going on there as well. But fortunately, it's stabilized and it hasn't grown in the last 2 years. Not to say it won't happen this upcoming spring, and I'll be surveying that area to see how those numbers look.
So 50 permits wouldn't hurt the elk population all that much anyway.
No. And the thing about the 52 is, you know, if we end up finding out that our harvest is really high, I have the opportunity to adjust quotas, number of licenses, during the non-season setting process, which would be next year. And so based upon my survey data, the harvest data, if we've got numbers that are plummeting, we've got hunter harvest that's skyrocketed or gotten, you know, pretty good there out of those 50, I can actually make these fine-tune adjustments to those tags. So I could drop it down to 30, and as long as I'm within a quota range, and make that minute recommendation during a non-season setting year. And that's all based upon that survey data.
Can you cut off the hunt? If, let's say 50 hunters get 40 elk, can you cut it off?
No, there's no, once you have it, I can't cut it off. But the thing about the 50 is if 50 were taken, we would be fine. We would just pull back sharply the following year and take that pressure off, or just have minimal pressure down there, maybe 5 licenses, you know, something like that. Really look at the calf-cow ratio I come up with during the spring combined with that harvest and readjust that number. So there's opportunity to make those changes so that we're not driving them down.
And it's gonna be a fluke if you ever see a number like that anyway. I used to
Definitely.
put in for a cow permit on all 3 of the areas down at St. Regis and drew one quite often.
Yeah.
And when Doug Dryden was here, I happened to ask him one year, you know, what's the best that you've ever seen for harvest? I think those were 30 down there. What was the best you ever saw? He said one year there was 15.
Yeah.
You know, that's
a high
lot,
harvest,
you know,
yeah. That's a high harvest, so.
So don't you have the opportunity to raise it back up? You were just saying if you had 50, you could bring it down. If you had 30, can't you raise it up
Sure.
a little bit?
Yeah,
And
we
why
can
don't
do
you Stay
that.
with a 30. If you need more skill, check it up. Then I'd call the people that apply, another 5 people, and say,
Yeah.
get out there. But to keep just going 50, like you said, you got a mass confusion of people out there, 50 people out there, I don't care. They're gonna be driving all around that Round Mountain. That's all they do, and they sit there and they look at all the milk on Round Mountain, and they're there every day.
Yeah.
And people won't let you on. Or if you do get on one spot, you shoot it on the other end, you can't get it off. So to keep jacking it up isn't solving the problem.
So it sounds like interesting keeping it as it is, and definitely
Try and work
continuing
with
our
the
work, working with those landowners,
Yeah, you
trying
got
to
it.
get cooperation among them to work as a team. And then in the spring of, it'd actually be, I'll look at the data again this year and see if the population's grown. That's the other thing. If I fly this spring and we're seeing that trend go up and our calf-cow ratio
Raise it
go up
up,
in
yeah.
there, maybe we
5.
might need to do some adjusting. I mean, because we definitely need to get our harvest. That's the thing. We've been stable for 2 years, but we're stable at a high level. It's still causing game damage to a lot of these folks. And some of them are smaller parcels that have a heck of a time with open landscape. It's challenging for them to get the harvest they need. You know, as soon as the bullets start flying, they're over, as Justin had said, on the adjacent land and inaccessible. So it sounds like you're more along the lines keeping as it is,
Just
and then
me.
working
Yep.
with the folks
I
and
think that's the
looking
best.
at adjusting,
I really do.
but really trying to work with those landowners.
And if you draw a B license and you're hearing that, you know, historically that landowners aren't letting people on, go and knock on their door anyways.
They did.
Definitely.
People I knew
Go
that day
around-
went and knocked, and we were just, no, because we're mad at the fishing game. We aren't letting anybody on this year.
Try it again.
Well.
I'm saying, try it
Get in
again.
that door with a gun, you ain't going back second time.
You know,
We're
they're the
willing to
ones,
take that chance.
they're the ones that are having the damage.
You, but it-
That's what
if
it's.
I walk up that door first time, he says, no, I'm not gonna keep bothering this poor guy. Why? He said no, he meant no.
Yep.
I'm not gonna keep pestering him, He's gonna get his goddamn out, walk up, knock on the door, and I'm gonna be laying on my back out there, you know?
And, you know, as I mentioned before, there's an opportunity for me to provide those larger landowners with the name and phone number of the hunter and where they're from. And then that way, if they said no to you before, and maybe they see you on the list, maybe you'll get that phone call. And so that's something to think about as well. We'll definitely provide that information to landowners. All right? Any other comments about those licenses?
Do you guys ever eat?
Not when we're talking about.
And not fair, huh? Yeah.
I'm just curious, but.
I've got a question about,
And you can increase the turkey tags.
Increase the turkey tax. Wait, we got a comment here.
I just, you know, the last few years, there's no shooting, no spikes.
Yeah.
Is that, to me, it sounds like it's a good deal, cause it'll raise the bull population in a couple of years, you know, the bigger
Yeah.
bulls. Is that working out?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And when Henderson, my predecessor, made that change to brow tine bull only, he did see an increase in his bull to cow ratios. It seems to work really well in this thick, you know, steep country. And we did see an improvement there. So, yeah, we did see a bump up in the number of bulls per 100 cows. And
If they weren't
overall
so damn
percentage
dumb
of
and
bulls.
getting eaten by wolves, we'd have a lot more of them too.
I think they would have wisened up by now, huh? Thanks so much for your time, you guys. If you, by chance, would like to provide any additional comment, please go to our website by 5 tomorrow.
Thank you.
Question there, so,
It's Gavin.